King, it's a lot of suckers out here with their money, and you can't be no sucker out here with your money.
Bro, I ain't no sucker. Bet you I don't.
Okay. What's assets?
Assets are things that bring money into your bank account.
What's liabilities?
Liabilities are things that take money out your bank account.
Entrepreneurship is the act of becoming an entrepreneur. What's entrepreneurship?
Entrepreneurship is a process of setting up a business or businesses.
Taking on a greater than normal
Financial risk.
What's an entrepreneur?
Entrepreneur is a person that organizes and operates a business or businesses.
Also taking on a greater than normal
Financial risk.
What's financial mean?
Money.
And what's risk mean?
Chance.
Come on. What does it mean to own stock?
When you own a share of a company.
Come on. What's real estate investing?
Real estate investing is when you invest in a immovable property.
What's the two types of real estates?
Commercial real estate and residential real estate.
What's commercial real estate?
Commercial real estate is property for businesses and workspace, like an office, store, or land.
And what's residential real estate?
Property to live on, like a house, apartment, or condominium.
Come on. It comes with extra fees when you have real estate, you feel me?
Mm-hmm.
Daddy tells you how many times he pays his state property tax a year.
Once a year.
What's the type of maintenance fee?
Cutting grass.
Come on. What's HOA?
Homeowner association.
And what comes along with that?
HOA fee.
Come on. And when it comes to the brokerage percent, what percent is that?
7.
Come on. What's equity?
Equity is the difference between what your business is worth minus what you own.
Also assets minus
liabilities and debt.
Good job. What's credit report?
Credit report is like a report card letting you know how well you did by paying your money back you borrowed.
And how does credit affect your life?
The better you keep your credit, the more opportunities you'll have to get funding.
And what? Large purchases like?
A car or a house.
Come on. And always repay what you
owe.
Because if you owe somebody, that means you're in
debt.
And you never want to be in
debt.
Because that means you
owe somebody.
And we don't never owe
somebody.
Because that ain't what suckers do, period. Come on.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. I can't get enough of that, you know? It's about teaching young people about money because money matters. Hello, audience. This is George Demaree again with Money Matters. And I have a very special guest today. We have DDGordon, all right? She told me how to pronounce her name to make sure that I did it correctly today. Oh, and wow. Deborah is a member of the Breland Group. It's a real estate brokering group. And they've helped literally hundreds of people over the years. And we got a few questions we're going to ask Deborah about the business and how she got there. But before we even go there, on that intro, tell you a quick story. You know, years ago I had a customer, very good customer at my radio stations, and we were playing golf on a Saturday, and he gets a call from his 9-year-old son. And it's his birthday. Well, the next day was his birthday. So I'm listening to this conversation, and it was about, well, what stock am I going to get for my birthday? What share of stock? And that struck me, Deborah. I'm thinking how different people in different ethnicities, all right, look at things differently. Like my sons were thinking, well, where am I going to get my next pair of Nikes? Yeah. Which were a higher cost than that share of stock he was buying his son. Those Nikes were $120, and I think they bought a couple of shares of McDonald's at $30 a share. Now, those kids today are adults, college graduates and adults, but the money that they made and the information that that man, client, who ended up to grow to be a very good friend of mine, think of where they are and the legacy that he started by sharing people the power of money and how to grow money. What do you think about that, Deb?
I think it's beautiful. You know, that's how I learned about stocks, just listening to other people, you know, on the job, and they talking about what they were doing and what they were gaining. And my first initiative, when I was able to put some money together, I ran to Hilliard Lyons to see what I could do.
That's right. Yeah. You know, remember, it's all about this program today isn't necessarily about stock, but it did make me think of that story watching the intro again, the importance of teaching our children the value of money. Yeah. If I had someone at that age, And it had nothing to do with my father. I had a great father. I mean, my father was my best friend. God could not have given me a better father than George Demaree Sr., and I miss him every day. But he cannot teach me something that he did not know or he didn't have any experience with.
Yeah.
Now, what my children are getting from me will help them to move forward in them making good financial decisions. And the reason that the church, Ms. Gordon, all right, decided to put together this program is because Reverend Cosby understands the importance of financial literacy. He wants all his people to not be afraid that money's not a bad thing, all right? It's how you use money sometimes can be a bad thing, but really, money's not a bad thing. And because we all need it, how can we make great decisions that can only help ourselves and help our family and also one day start a legacy for our children, grandchildren, and children to come.
Right.
So with that being said, Miss Deborah, she chastised me earlier because I spelled her name wrong, all right? So I'll make sure I'll never do that again. But she looks for reasons to chastise me, so that's no problem, audience, all right? There it goes. Tell me, how long have you been in the real estate business?
You know, I thought about that today, and usually I just throw out a number and not even really thinking about it. But today I really looked into it, and I've been in the real estate business for 18 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask this. What happened in your life? What made you choose a career in real estate?
Actually, it was a house that came up for sale in my neighborhood. And the agent selling the house looked like me. Yeah. And so I was interested in it, and I talked with her, and actually we ended up buying that house.
Wow.
Yeah. But she had finesse, she had a little class, and like I said, she looked like me, and I thought, you know what, that might be interesting. I'm going to look into that and just see what I can do. I'd always been into some type of sales, you know, all my life. I had an antique business. So I knew about buying and selling, and I thought I'd look into that and see what happened. And here I am 18 years later, and I still love it.
It's all about being, so what you're really saying is being exposed.
Yeah.
You didn't think about it?
Not before.
We were, a couple of weeks ago in our staff meeting, we have a weekly staff meeting every Monday, and I always share a power word. I may have shared this last week, but even if I did, I'll say it again. I said sometimes, Miss Deborah, sometimes a passion is not a calling, it's a falling.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just fall into it, and it becomes a passion. Well, you fell in that because you were exposed to it. I fell into the radio business because I was exposed to it. I had no idea at the time that people who sold commercials could make money doing it. Who knew? Yeah. And you know, and I sometimes when I'm in some of these upper middle class neighborhoods and I look and say, how do people afford these places? Because there are businesses and people are making money in things that black people just have not been exposed to. They are not allowing us inside. Yeah. It's part of that systemic racism that we're fighting now, or that's come to the forefront over the last number of weeks. So let me ask you this as it relates to the real estate business. So you've been in for about 18 years?
Yeah.
Tell me some of the things. What have changed over those years?
Everything. Absolutely everything. You know, let's say in the beginning, just getting into a house, you'd call and you'd get a key and you could go in. Now everything is done on your phone. You know, there's a little box on the house that I can put in a code in, it'll open up that box and I take the key out, then I can get in the house. Everything, I can do everything on the phone. I don't have to sit down and write out that contract. I can do that on the phone and I can send it.
That quickly?
Yeah, that quickly, and then I can wait for them to sign it and send it back, and they electric sign it.
So it doesn't require you actually physically being there anymore?
I don't have to. but a lot of times I want to. I'm still old school. I like the signature. I want your signature. I want to see you write it. I don't like that what's done on the internet.
Wow, it's another thing. Years ago, there was a commercial for United Airlines, so it shows how long that's been.
Yeah.
And it talked about a person who lost a piece of business. You know, he was in a conference room, and there were 10 or 12 people, and they were talking about losing it. And the reason that they lost the business is because of, then they were talking about have almost become obsolete now, fax machines, cell phones, where people don't need the personal touch anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, someone else did some things that they used to do, and they lost business. So I'm thinking that, tell me, is, well, let's talk about a little bit about property ownership as opposed to stock ownership. Which one do you think makes better sense, or is it something that you'd like to talk about?
Well, they both make good sense. It's just that stock you have to watch a little more carefully. Home ownership, you just have to maintain. Stocks go up and down constantly. So, you know, you may lose. Just because you put it in that stock does not mean you're going to get your money back or your money is going to, exceed. Like I said, stocks is something you have to constantly watch. And you might want to take it out of this one and put it into that one because this one is growing higher. But they all have that advantage of going up and down. If you have a house and you take care of it, you maintain it properly, you can be assured that at least it's going to be 3% more than it was the next year. It's going to continue to get larger.
So over the years, now both assets over the years have increased in value.
Okay.
But yet what you're saying is stocks are more volatile, you know, is if the ups and peaks and valleys in stocks are a lot higher than they are in property ownership.
Right.
And in property ownership, there's only, you've heard this said many, many times, there's only so much land.
Well, this is true. But, you know, I told you about the house that I purchased. I purchased that house for $59,000. That house is now worth $132,000. Is that okay?
There you go. A lot of wealth, there's probably the primary way that people have started to accumulate wealth is through the acquisition of property.
Yeah.
It's through their home, because there's a lot of things that you can do once you get a home and you start paying down that principal on that house. So I'd say for a good investor, have a combination of both.
Yeah.
You have some stock. Now there are certain stocks that we know that nothing's 100%, but you feel pretty confident about just going to go up. You know, companies like Apple. I bought Apple stock.
Yeah.
I'm just going to use one example. I bought Apple stock 3 years ago, and at that time it was $90 a share. And I'm looking at it thinking, have I ever seen an Apple store that wasn't crowded?
Right.
I had never, ever went to go buy something from Apple where I had to take a seat to give them my money.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
So I said, I need to buy a couple hundred shares of that, you know, moving it from one piece of stock to the other. And I think today was 300 and some change, I think. So making good decisions. Now, there are other stocks that pay dividends, but don't necessarily give you those kinds of returns.
Right.
I'm going to give you one like AT&T or Verizon. Those kinds of stocks pay dividends, and it may be anywhere between 3 and 5% based on what they did this year. But as a rule, you won't get a big spike in their value. But I'll tell you another thing that won't happen. You won't usually get a big loss either. So it's about risk tolerance when it comes to stock and being smart. Now, every now and then I'll get off stock, there may be a piece of stock that I hear something from that I won't invest a lot of money in, but it won't cost a lot of money just to speculate.
Yeah, just
You know,
to see.
just to see.
Yeah.
You know. So let me ask this: getting back to real estate,
Thank you.
and let me also say this: any questions that you have during this webcast, please send them in. If we don't answer them today, I'll be sure to answer them on next week's show. Tell me a little bit about the business. Do you think women, as opposed to men, have an advantage or disadvantage in this business? Or do they have one at all, do you believe?
I think it's more or less equal. I think any business you work hard for. I don't think it's an advantage. I think it's just a placement. It's just a job. If you want the job and you want to keep it, you work hard to do so, and men do the same way. Men may get hired quicker because, I don't know, sometimes they look up higher to men and say they're more qualified maybe than a woman, but a woman does the same job, and sometimes women just like to get along with a woman as opposed to even hiring a man as an agent.
I'm going with me being a person who's hired salespeople for over 30 years.
Okay.
And I've always felt, and I may get some blowback on this, all right?
Okay.
But I don't care. But I'm gonna stick my neck on
Okay.
this. Women in our business were a wee bit more successful. Now I'm not saying in the sales arena. In my estimate, let me tell you why. I'm not saying they were this much more successful. I said a wee bit more, and the reason being is because their ability to naturally show empathy.
Okay.
Because people do business with people that they like.
Yeah.
Even though other people may bring greater value. It's trust and value. And it's always 80% trust and 20% value. And because I had this old phrase that was painted on my wall as a young manager, and it said, people don't care what you know until they know that you care.
Yeah.
You know? And I believe, and it's just a personal belief over my years of experience, that it's a wee bit easier for women to show empathy than for some men to. And it made them really good salespeople in my business.
Well, women have a more of a caring nature.
That's what I mean, you know? But because people can see through you.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
You know, does this person have it in for me, or is it all about them?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: what do you like most about the real estate business?
My first-time home buyers.
Well, tell me about it. Tell me about
I
it.
love it. I love it. You know, when you have someone who's been used to living in an apartment, and you can't paint a wall, you can't hang a picture, you can't do this, you can't do that, and now you have your own home, and the first thing is, you mean I can actually paint this? I can put this what I want. My son wants University of Louisville. Can I put this in here? Can I paint his wall red? It's your house, honey. Paint it any color
People
you
actually ask you those questions?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Because when
Wow.
you live in an apartment, you can't do any of these things. That house is not yours. You can't even put pictures on the wall in some of them. You can't even hang drapes. You know, so yes, they asked. They are concerned. That's my first time home buyer. And sometimes when we close, I've seen them get up and do a little holy dance. I've seen them laugh and giggle and cry, and I've seen it all. I love it.
Oh, that's good.
I love it.
Well, that's what makes you successful. That's what I'm talking about. Empathy.
Yeah.
You're empathetic to them. You feel good when they feel good.
Yeah, I want them to have it. I want them to have it. I want them to get out of that state of having to give away money, which I tell them, I explain to them what they're doing when they're renting, and let them know that what they're doing, they can put it into their own home and have what they want, what they need, and they can pass this wealth on to their own children.
We've had, I don't know, I've been with Sharon Bell in this program for about 17 weeks, all right, give or take a week. And of those 17 weeks, approximately 10 of those, we've talked a little bit, if sometimes a lot, sometimes a little, about the importance of home ownership. because we feel that no matter what, that is your most important purchase that you will make in your lifetime.
It is.
And it will literally change your perspective about life.
Yes.
So the thing you like most is your first time. Tell me a little bit about that. What advice would you give a person interested in buying a house for the first time?
I sit down with my person. I find out what they want. I go to their house, really, and I see what they have. So I know what to expect. And then I sit down with them and I ask them, what are we looking for? You need 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms? What are we looking for? You need a basement? Why do you need a basement? Your backyard, garage? I look at everything. I go over everything with them. But I have to know first from their lender, how much money can we spend? I got to know that, because there's no need in me going out finding a $500,000 house for somebody who can pay $150.
Got
so
you.
I need to know. But I'm not trying to use the whole $150. I'm still trying to bring it down where they don't have to use it all. But I want to find something in that range and still find them a nice house. I want to find what they want, what they're going to be comfortable in. And usually they know. They know you can walk in that door and there's no, not this one. Or we can pull up in front of the house and no, well, maybe, I hate to take up your time, but I don't think we need to go in here. So, but when you go in the door and say, well, let's see it. And we'll look around and we'll examine it. And I'm looking at certain areas and they're looking at where can they put pictures and where can they hang drapes and does the stove and refrigerator come with it. I'm looking to see the water heater and I'm looking at other things and I want to know. I've already examined that on my phone to see everything there is to know about that house before I even made the appointment. So I kind of know. So I know when I get with the inspector that when he comes in to look at it, what I'm concerned about.
Got you.
Yeah. So I get from them what they want.
Do you? So tell me how it usually works. It's been a while since I bought a house. And
Okay.
Do a person calls you and they say they want to buy a house. At that point, do you ask them, have they gone to a mortgage provider?
Absolutely.
Yep. Is that question number one?
Yes.
All right.
I want to know if you're pre-approved.
Right. Okay, let's suppose they haven't been. Then what's the next thing you suggest?
Then I want to know, do they have a preference? Do they have someone that they want to talk to? Is there a bank that they prefer to talk with, or do they have someone? If they don't, then I'll ask them if they're military. Would you like a gentleman to work with you, or would you prefer a man? I want to know what you want. If this is a young lady, would you like a young lady to work with you, or would you like a man? What would you like? And some of them like a lady. And I usually try to find someone in,
As far as real estate brokers?
Yeah, no, as brokers, no.
I mean, as far as mortgage providers?
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
I have men on my list that work with FVAs. I have women who look really, really young to work with my young people. I have Caucasian women. I have everybody. I want to know who you want to work with. I want you to be comfortable. And if you're not comfortable with that person, then I'll get somebody else.
Tell me.
And I'll have you go meet them. And if you say no, then I'll get you someone else. Because you've got to work with these people. You've got to tell them all your financial business. So I want you to be comfortable.
All right, I'm going to ask you one more question about the business, from the business side and not the buyer side.
Okay.
Okay. If a person comes to you and says, I am interested in getting in the real estate business, what would you share with them?
Why do you want to be in the business? First of all, is it you think I'm making millions of dollars? Why do you want to be here? And then there's people I want you to meet also. There's brokers that I would like you to talk to. You want to talk to my broker?
Well, all right, let me ask this. You've been in the business for 18 years. And the thing that I've heard, all right,
Okay.
right? Obviously, I've never been in the business.
Okay.
But about the the peaks and valleys in the business based on market conditions.
Okay.
I mean, tell me a little bit about both, because when things are going pretty well right now, because there seems to be a shortage of inventory right now.
It is.
Right? As opposed to what happened in 2009 and 10 when the inventory was really high. How do you navigate during those periods?
Well, right now is what we call the seller's market. The seller has control. And so they're kind of putting what they want on the house, but the appraiser is the one that comes in last and lets you know that what it's worth. But as you said, there's peaks and valleys. This time of the year, when we're out looking for a house, it's kind of hard because there's not a lot of houses on the market. The inventory is low, and it's like a gamble. You're out there like at an auction trying to get a house. It's no longer a negotiation. You usually have to offer exactly what they ask for. There's no negotiation. If they say that they want $100,000 for the house, don't even bother to offer them 90. You won't get it. And I'll show you that. We can write it up, and you take it to them, and no. If you put a house on the market on a Monday, I'll guarantee you by Wednesday they'll call you and tell you that we need your highest and your best offer, because we've got so many offers on the house if it's a good house, that you're definitely going to have to go higher than what they're asking for in order to get it.
In the house that my wife and I live in, there's been a small part of us, who have been somewhat interested in maybe upgrading again. You know,
Okay.
Didn't really make a lot of sense, but it kind of depends on. So
That's what you want.
yeah, so we looked and we feel we can get a pretty good nickel for what we got, because we've done a lot of upgrades in a good neighborhood. But when I went and looked and see what I had to pay to replace it these days,
Change your mind.
oh, oh,
Houses are not cheap.
oh, it just didn't make sense. Still wish I had my house in the polo fields. That's
Yeah,
been worth a
yeah.
ton of money right now. But wow,
It's a big difference. There is no cheap houses on the market.
it would cost a minimum. I don't even gonna get into the number, but it's a large number for us to even remotely even want to go through the problem of moving. So wow.
I had a young lady to tell me that just recently. She said that she thought that I should be able to find a house around 90,000. And I told her, if I did find it, you wouldn't want to live in it. There's too much repair and things that need to be done. There's no cheap houses, no matter where, East End, West End, South End, Portland, I don't care. There's no houses that's cheap.
I've been trying. I've had your buddy Curtis Owens.
Yeah.
I've been talking to Curtis about trying to buy some property just for investment purposes.
Okay.
And he's like, George, it's tough out there now, brother.
Yes, indeed.
You know, he
and,
said,
and it's a fight. You know, you think you're the only one that's out there looking. You're kidding. You start looking.
yeah, and those
Yeah.
experienced investment guys are beating you to the punch.
Yeah.
All right, what are some of the major challenges today for people who want to buy a house, other than inventory challenges?
Well, that's the biggest challenge. The areas that you want, it's money. You don't have the money to buy in the areas that you want to be in, because the housing market the prices has gone so high. It's no longer that you can't live in certain areas. We got beyond that. You can live anywhere you want to if you can afford it.
Right.
So right now.
Oh, so you know, that was a question that I was going to ask. All right, how has do you or have you experienced any? There's always racism. Don't get me wrong. So
I know.
I
know.
I mean, racism is just there.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going to get into that right now.
Okay.
But as it relates to the real estate market, how has that been a factor over the last few years, or is it?
There's always going to be racism.
It is.
I just don't know
That's
a
a
simple
tough
way
question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. It's just something that we deal with, we work with, and we know how to handle.
Yeah, I mean, it's just there. And
It's there. It's there.
It just is.
Yeah.
When you think of your business as a tenured professional real estate broker, who has to be your best friend?
It's usually another agent.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, that agent I call on for different questions, and I call on my broker. Yeah. Mr. Breland. Yeah. There's always a question. There's always something comes up that you just don't have the answers for. And see, that's the problem with being a broker and having your own business. Who do you go to? You know. So it makes life a little simpler this way when I can pick up the phone and I can call. There's several other agents I check with, and there's my broker. Look, I can't figure this out. We need to talk. Can I come in the office today? What time? You know.
How has student debt been a factor for the millennials now that's trying and the Generation Zs that are now getting into the housing market and trying to buy a house?
Well, now see, that's up to their financial institution, whoever they're working with.
Okay.
I don't even ask them how much they owe in student debt. I don't even get into that. I don't get into the money market with them. I let them work it out with their financial people, and this way they can tell them, listen, you need to wait a while, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to save, you need to put up whatever they need to do.
I guess that's what happens when you talk to your mortgage provider. So they had all that figured out
Right.
for them to get pre-approved.
Absolutely.
That makes nothing but sense to me
Yes.
now that I've asked the question. Tell me a little bit about issues with seniors, about seniors buying a house or maybe to sell their house to go. Have you witnessed anything that's a little different now that we become a more of an aged society and people are living longer?
If you got the money you want to buy it. You can buy it. There's no problem. If you don't have the money and you're trying to downsize, but you own your home, see, then you talk to your financial advisor and find out what you need to do. But as far as buying a house, like I said, if you got the money, you can buy it. Nothing is going to stop you because of your age.
Has gentrification affected the real estate business?
Well, gentrification is supposed to be improving and upgrading.
That's what it's supposed to do.
But gentrification has been different. Some areas are just nothing. Yeah, gentrification has been. I really want to go into a long process of something else, but I
No,
won't.
well, you can. We got a few minutes.
You know, it just bothers me when I even hear the words, because when I do, I think about urban renewal. That's my first thought. My parents lived in the West End, and urban renewal came through, and they decided that they wanted to take out all these old houses, and they was going to bring in some new ones, and people were happy about it, you know? And people were thinking, well, this is wonderful. We're going to get new houses, and we're going to be able to live here, and this is going to be great. And those people who had their houses and worked hard to renovate them and make them what they wanted them to be, they sold those houses. They let urban renewal buy those houses for nothing, hardly. And Mom had a girlfriend that lived down there on, I think 32nd Street or something. And she held out. They held out. They felt like the longer they held out, they would get more money. And urban renewal took down all those houses and left hers. So the city had to buy it, and they bought it for less than what urban renewal was going to pay for it. So all of these people who moved had that area was displaced. Matter of fact, urban renewal was called, at that time we was called Negroes. They was called Negro removal. All those people had to go to the projects. They had to go find apartments. They had no place to go. They couldn't get another house for the money that they had. So they were stuck. They went to the projects, and so did she. So I don't think a lot about gentrification. That word just bothers me, because that's the first thing I think about. It's a displacement. It's the same thing that happened to Owanage Street. And all the houses and businesses that were there, they're gone. And all those people were displaced. And now you see people in their front yards with barbecue pits. They're not stupid. This is what Grandma did. Grandma didn't have a house anymore. She had to go into projects. She put the barbecue pit on the front porch because she didn't have a backyard. Because the projects don't have a backyard. This is all you've got. So you deal with what you have. And let me say this.
Please continue.
32nd Street, that's your 264. That's your I-264 that runs through that. That's not houses.
So they just took all those houses and they put an expressway.
That's your
through there.
I-264. East and west goes right straight across there. Yeah. I bet you passed there, you never wondered, how in the world did this end here? How did this get here? Was this open, vacant land? No, people lived there.
Yeah, I went to Henry Clay High School on River Park Drive. There's a corner of 34th, 32nd and River Park in that area.
Okay.
And that elementary school. And that elementary school is no longer there. There's a fire station there right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Right on the corner.
And right behind that elementary school, we had a big playground where we played baseball. And that expressway wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
And then when the expressway came, they tore down that elementary school that was in the heart of the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
That was actually walked, because I lived on my parents lived on 31st Street on the other side of Broadway.
Okay.
We actually walked to school, and they took it away.
Yeah.
So Reverend Cosby, funny you say that. During Black History Month, we had a whole week of one Sunday about Owanage Street,
Mm-hmm.
and what happened to Owanage Street, and how urban renewal. Before that happened, there were hundreds of businesses, black-owned businesses,
Yeah.
growing businesses,
Yeah.
you know, that went away. And that's the exact same thing that's happening with gentrification.
Yes.
And that's why I brought it up. I'm glad you shared that story. I didn't expect it, but I'm happy that you shared it.
Well, good. And I was just blessed that we weren't involved in it, because further down, we lived at the beginning of River Park Drive at 30th. So we weren't in that. But her friends were.
You know, you've answered one. I had one question on here on how you choose a mortgage provider, mm-hmm. and you said it depended on the person that you know or that
yeah.
you're
I want
with.
you to be able to work with someone that you're going to be comfortable with.
And this is on the other side of your business too, but I'm going to spend at least a minute or so on it, because I think we do have a couple of more minutes. Is interest rates? How has that affected your business lately? You know, with the shortage of what's going on.
Well, with interest rates being low, it's helped my business, and it's just getting out there and finding a house. So my people are happy to, my clients are happy to be able to find them a house at their interest rate, and I'm happy to show it to them. So it's helped us. Interest rates are low.
I had planned on using a calculator to share with people what borrowing $150,000 to $200,000, what it looks like at 4.5% as opposed to 3%. Mm-hmm. And how much money they can save mm-hmm. by taking 1.5% off their interest rates. I noticed that you have a brochure here on preparing for your house for sale. Kind of tell me a little bit about that. What do you do?
Well, when you are interested in selling a house,
okay.
and I meet with you, I come to your house, and we sit down and we talk. It's kind of hard for me to say, you know, your cabinets need to be cleaned. Your carpet is, you know, we need to do this or that. So I sit down with you and tell you, let's look at this.
Okay.
And there's things that that's in my little brochure. Even remove extra vehicles from the driveway. Yeah. Repair damaged screens in the doors and the windows. Paint thoroughly and wash your house exterior. I have all of these little things. Clean draperies and the blinds. They're just to, for you to look over while you're sitting there. And you might bawl me out later, but I'm gone.
Right.
If you call me back, we're working.
Right. Well,
And we'll sit down and write a contract and
it's
when you get things together so it looks
it's
nice.
something about how a house smells with a fresh coat of paint.
Well, something about how it looks too when you want to show it. And you don't have your little dogs running around in the whole. Well, anyway, I have you to look over these things. And even when you want to buy a house, I
Okay.
have another brochure.
Tell them about that.
On buying a house, it's the same thing. You're going to ask me, there's things you're not going to remember. We're going to go over so much. But there's some things I want you to know about inspections, your loan issues, earnest money. I don't want you to buy anything. The first thing I tell you, don't buy anything but food until we close on this house, okay? Now,
Because that will affect their
Your credit.
their income to debt ratio.
right, because before we close, they're going to check your credit one more time.
They are, aren't
Yes,
they?
they are.
Please tell
Yes,
folks
they
that.
are. And so I leave that with you too. So you can know buying your new home and the things you should and should not do and how much money I think that you might need when we get started. Because like I said, you have a termite inspection, the whole house inspection. You have a lot of things, radon inspection. You have a lot of things that you're going to have to pay for. So I want you to have at least $1,200 at least on hand to be able to do this. I don't want you to go borrow it. I want you to have it.
That's right. That's right. Because you want to increase your debt.
Right, right.
Look, okay, you seem to be, and I really mean this wholeheartedly. What a great real estate broker you are. When you get your business now, where's your business come from? From a marketing perspective, how do you get your new business?
My business actually is coming from an old business.
Referrals, huh?
Referrals from people who I've already done business with. Yeah.
And if I were to talk to one person that if I had all your people in the room
Okay.
that bought a house from you, and I would grab a person out of there and say, tell me the experience you had with Miss Deborah Gordon.
Oh, mercy. Well,
What
let's
would
do
she
it right.
say?
Deborah Gordon. Okay?
All right. What do you think they would say?
She's great to work with. She's easy to work with. She's comfortable to work with. I like working with her. I haven't had any negative problems.
Good
Yeah, so they would be, apparently they okay because they keep sending me people.
There you go.
Yeah.
That is a great sign. There's no better, and I'm a marketing professional by trade, sales and marketing. There is no better way to market your product than word of mouth. Just none better than the person next door saying, you need those tires, you need this house, call him, call her.
Yeah.
Another thing, I'll tell you what I want to conclude with. I always like to conclude with some additional information. And we've talked about this quite a bit over the weeks as well, and that's creating a monthly budget. It is important that you know where your money is going, and you will not know where your money is going unless you put it on paper or you got some system. And when you do it, and you'll hear me talk about it at least once a month, this subject, once you do it, you will be surprised where your money is going out the door.
Right.
Won't you?
And that's another reason why I have them sit down with a mortgage person or financial assistant, is so they can work it out. I don't need to know how much money you have in the bank and what you spend and what you do. I want you to sit down with a professional, and so that they'll take care of it.
What advice would you give a new realtor in the business? If there was a piece of advice, what would you give them?
First you need is patience. Don't be in such a hurry to do this. Have patience, and you just have to get in the business and have love of the business. I don't have any advice for you other than just being yourself, not trying to outdo anybody else. Just you're in a sales position, you're selling a house, you're selling somebody something that's going to last them a lifetime, with a 30-year mortgage at least. Sell it to them like you would take care of your own family. You know, one of my little, if you notice, that I have on here, I offer the service that only a friend would provide. And that's what you need to do.
Be a friend.
That's what you need to do.
May I also add some advice?
What's that?
As well? I don't care if it's real estate broker or anything, especially when you get in the sales arena. There's no substitute for hard work.
Yeah.
There's no substitute for it.
Yeah.
You have got to be willing to do what other people don't do. And you've got to be willing to work hard.
Right.
I've seen there's a guy that I used to do business with at the radio station who got into the real estate business. And I am so impressed with him because every week I'm getting something, I'm getting an email, I'm getting a text message. That man is working it. Mm-hmm. He is working it. And if you're going to go out, you're going to get your license, and you think it's over then you have lost your mind.
No.
Right?
This business doesn't come to you, you make it.
And let me tell you what I share with people about business. And I said this, and you'll hear me say this many times, considering I had a staff for 30 years and I've told them all kinds of things, but this is one of the many. Business will stop itself. Mm-hmm. Business will stop itself. Don't you, if business is good, you gotta make it when business is good, because there will be a time when business will stop itself, where market conditions will put you in a position where you're not making as much as you used to. But if you have a habit of working hard during good times, that habit will transfer during tough times. Right. And then you can make it through tough times when other people don't. So again, create a budget. Consider some people call it the 50-30-20 rule, but I call it the 50-20-20 rule. And I'm going to finish by sharing that with you. Understand, people respect what you inspect. People respect what you inspect. That also includes you. You will respect what you inspect for yourself. So first of all, understand where you're spending your money. Mm-hmm. Understand it. Mm-hmm. And then have a system. Now, these percentages won't work for everybody, and this is something that you'd have to grow to get to, Miss Deborah. And I'm going to share this with the group. One is you understand what your post-tax income is. The money that you're making after you pay your taxes. Try your best to use 50% of that. That's what I meant when I said percentages may change. This is a goal, where 50% of that is spent on needs. Housing, food, transportation, utilities, insurance, and child care. Those are needs. Can't get past them, gotta have them. 20% are wants. Some people will say 30. I'm going to go 20 to maybe 25, but I'm going to say 20% during tough times, wants. Let me share with you, let me define wants for you. Okay. Travel, entertainment, designer clothes. That's right. Sharon, getting your hair done. I'm just kidding. Sharon Bell over there. You know what I mean? Gym memberships. Watch this. Starbucks. Okay. Mm-hmm. Luxury cars.
We always say get the car after you buy the house.
Yes. Yes. And you will discover that a car, and I don't want to hurt anybody in the auto business, but it's actually the worst investment that we make. It's always an emotional investment. And it took a long time for me to understand that too. All right. Next, take 20% of your money to repay debt and savings. When you save, try your best to automate your savings, because if you don't automate them, you won't do them. Mm-hmm. You just got to. Mm-hmm. You got to some kind of way. Well, if you work for a company that has a 401k plan, then that's easy to automate your savings. But if you don't, set it up, where X amount of money goes into some savings account that you don't touch. And I told my son just 2 weeks ago, he said, Dad, I said, boy, say 10% of your income. Say 10% of your income, no matter what. And I said, once you start doing it, you won't miss it. You will not miss it, and money grows exponentially. And you're 30 years old now. When you become, I'll be 64 this year. When you're my age, you got a stack of money there sitting waiting on you. And you got money just in case for an emergency fund. And last but not least, so you got 50% of your money to pay your needs. You try to get there. You got 20% of your money on things that you want. You got 20% of your money to pay off debt and to grow your savings account and emergency fund. And finally, and I believe this is also important, you got 10% for God. And you give 10% for God. I have discovered that the more that I give, the more that I get. And I'm not telling you to give to get. That's the wrong attitude. But when you give and you give it from the heart and you think good about it, it's amazing how God will bless you.
Yes.
Well, Miss Gordon, this has been one of my favorite shows. I am so happy that I had you today. Have you enjoyed it?
I've enjoyed it. Thank you so very much for inviting me.
Did I tell you we're going to have fun?
Well, you did. Even let me take my mask
I
off. I
did.
appreciate that.
And we stayed away, you know. We're trying our best to adhere to social distancing requirements. But Sharon Bell talked me into doing this show about 20 weeks ago. And I was really reluctant to do it. And but now that it's been 20 weeks later, I really enjoy it. We've had some, let me tell you this, what we're doing in August.
Okay.
We're having a bunch, we're going to do the Entrepreneur Month. And they're going to be folks who are members of St. Stephen Baptist Church. And I try my best to get church members on, all right? I feel like that if you pay for this, that I need to highlight what you're doing, because it's your tithe money that pays for all this. And I don't want, so this is who's coming. Cornelius Pumphrey is going to be on next week. He's also in the real estate market and reinvesting real estate. The week after that, it's going to be Walter Shannon with E&S Galleries. And that Walter, he's zany. That is my dude. We are good friends, but he is one of the most successful black businessmen in the city. And E&S Galleries is one of the greatest galleries in the country. If you've never been there, you need to go and see it. Rochelle Bond will be the following week, and she owns Turnkey Title Company. I think she's the only black person, am I right?
She is.
That owns a title company in the state?
She is.
She is so special. I just met her by phone, but
Yeah.
I got on the phone for a 5-minute conversation and went to a half an hour, but it's real hard for me to talk to people. I know you know that to be true.
I know that.
Right? And finally in August, I'm gonna have I got a few people that I'm talking to who are very successful entrepreneurs. They're going to share with you the things they did to become successful businessmen that you can emulate if you want to start your business. So thank you.
Thank you.
Happy to have you. And Sharon Bell, love you even though it's you. Take it easy.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.